it's me, Lois, and I finally finished knitting so that we can do the Kitchener stitch. We're going to graft the pink to the pink and the black to the black so that it's fully reversible and all of that good stuff. But in order to get ready to do that, we have to transfer some stitches around and get ready. So I'm just going to be doing that live on camera with you guys. And so when you're transferring the stitches from your knitting needle to another knitting needle to do Kitchener's stitch, what you want to think about is like, you don't want to insert your knitting needle on like you would be to knitting these stitches. You actually want to be inserting your needle in a way that the yarn, the working yarn, is now at the end of the knitting needle. So you kind of want to work backwards. If you're using straight needles, you can't do it the way that I am. You're actually going to need 2 straight knitting needles or whatever to transfer it over to. If you're using circular needles like I am, then you can do it the way that I am. So I'm just going to start transferring 1 stitch onto a straight needle and 1 stitch onto my circular needles. And that's how it's going to go, just like we've been knitting, alternating. So my purl stitches are going onto that red needle, and the knit side is going onto the circular. Okay, what we're going to do. So I'm going to set this aside because now I have to transfer stitches over from the waste yarn onto my other knitting needle. So if I'm doing the black side, that means it's this maroon. And I want to do the same thing because I want to seam these together at the same spot. So I need it to be on this end, the points of the needle on this end. Okay. When you're transferring these over, one thing you might want to think about is how the knit stitch is made. And so just like when I showed you the twisted stitch earlier, so I'm being really careful to put the arm of the knit stitch that is towards the point in the front. And so the other arm of the stitch, or the leg of the stitch, whatever you call it, is towards the back. Okay, so I'm just being very careful to do that because I don't want to be adjusting stitches later. I just want to be able to get this done. All right, so, and you can do this however works best for you. I like to stick my needle in and then pull my waste yarn, and you can see it's coming off super easy, super easy, which is nice. We like easy. So there we are at the beginning. So I've got all my stitches here, and I've got all my stitches on this needle. And so I've got 1 row with the light pink, 1 row with the black. And if we go back to the other side of the border from the muff, it has 2 rows of pink, and that's because we're going to use the design color or the motif color as the one that we use for the Kitchener stitch. And so when we set this up, you are going to be having like everything inside of your muff. And then once we finish doing one side, then we will turn it inside out, switch the stitches over to graft together the other side. Okay. So to do Kitchener stitch, we want to get yarn in the color that we need, which for me is the light pink. So we've got 1, 2, so we have 3 to 4 or 2 to 4 lengths of the muff in our working yarn, and we're going to place that on to a tapestry needle. So the first 2 stitches are our setup stitches, and when I talk about the first 2 stitches for Kitchener's stitch, it's the first one on the needle in front and the first one on the needle in back. After we do the setup, then the stitches will all be worked 2 stitches in the front, 2 stitches in the back, kind of in theme, and you'll see what I mean. But the first thing we want to do is we want to insert our tapestry needle as if to purl that stitch. So we're pretending to purl that, pull the yarn through, and then we're going to go to the back stitch and we're going to insert it as if to knit, okay? So we are pretending to knit that stitch and we pull that through. Okay, that is our setup stitches. And now from this point forward, we'll be doing the 4 stitches again and again and again. Insert your knitting needle as if to knit into the first stitch on your knitting needle and let it drop off. Step 2, insert your knitting needle as if to purl into the closest stitch to the needle point on your front needle. Pull your yarn through. Step 3, insert your knitting needle as if to purl into the stitch closest to the needle point on your back needle. Pull the yarn through and let that stitch drop. In step 4, insert your tapestry needle into the stitch closest to the needle point on your back needle as if to knit and pull it through. Okay, I'm going to pause here for a moment and talk about a couple of things. Number 1, it's helpful if you think about this like you do your knit stitch on the front, and then you do purl, purl, knit, knit, purl, purl, knit, knit. And that way there's like a sort of rhythm to it. The other thing is that ever so often after you do some Kitchener stitch, you want to pause and you want to look at the stitches that you've done. So you can see that mine are super loosey-goosey, and that's okay because we're still seaming things together, so we can tighten it up a little. So what I'll do is just kind of look at this one right here is like super goofy. We'll just tug our way around. And then we kind of just want it to match as close as possible. So it's a little bit loosey-goosey. That's okay. We just kind of tug on the ends to bring it to where we feel like it matches. And then when you feel good about the way that that's looking, then you can continue. Now, some people say to do that every 3 or 4 stitches. I will tell you that I personally like to do it every like 10 stitches or so because I feel like there's just more for me to look at. So I showed you the way that other people do it, and now I'm going to proceed in my normal way. All right, so I just did as if to knit, so it's as if to knit that first stitch on the front needle and pull it off. As if to purl on the front needle, pull through, do not let it drop. As if to purl on the back needle, pull it through, let it drop. As if to knit on that back needle, do not let it drop. As if to knit on the front needle, let it drop.